Welcome, everyone, to our webinar today. And I am delighted to have as our guest presenter today Dr. Allison Miller, who is the director for Kentucky and Indiana for NCFL. And we're delighted to have her today, and we're delighted to have you here today. If you would please introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're from, and we'll look forward to interacting throughout our presentation. So, any comments that you have, please go ahead and put those in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can put those in the Q&A. And just in the way of housekeeping, we will be sending you a certificate 24 hours at the end of the webinar. So we receive that, and Dr. Miller is going to be sharing her resources as well. So you'll be able to look forward to receiving those after the 24 hours after the webinar is over. So without further ado, and wanting to make sure that we have the maximum time for learning, I will turn things over to Dr. Miller. And Dr. Miller, again, thank you so much for presenting today.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you so much to COABE for having us out here today. I am Allison Miller. I'm going to get my screen shared here, and we'll go ahead and get started. I want to give you all the most of this hour to just do some learning here, and I'm going to be sharing a couple resources, some really great things here today to talk about. So yeah, as Steve said, we're going to talk today about some PACT Time opportunities and how we can consider their expansions across age ranges. Because we know that PACT time can happen for students and children of all ages. So just as an overview for today, this session will dive into expanding the age range for parent and child together, or PACT time activities, where we'll talk about a variety of different experiences for children and parents of all age. Most PACT time resources that are available typically focus on that 0 to 8, like early childhood area. But family literacy programming can help you serve families of children with an age range of any age. And so what we want to do today is just really explore the different activities that are needed to reflect the needs of the age of each child in your program. So yeah, I like to begin with the end in mind. So this is just an overview of our time here today. I'm going to give you an overview of NCFL, the National Center for Families Learning. We'll talk a little bit about what PACT time is and how it is constructed within the 4-component family literacy model. We will explore some NCFL PACT time resources that we offer and the different age groups that they serve. And then there are a few online PACT time resources from NCFL that I'd like to share with you here today and give you some time to explore and ask questions around. And then we'll have some time at the end for any questions that you might still have based on the information shared here today. And we'll just kind of wrap things up with how to get in contact with us if you have any questions. So as Steve said, please feel free, sign in the chat, share who you are, where you're from. I'm sure that is really interesting information for all of us to know. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in there as well. Steve is going to help me kind of field those questions. And then when we come to different areas where we can kind of pause and clean up anything in between each section, we can. So my name is Allison Miller. I work with the National Center for Families Learning. I'm the director of our Kentucky and Indiana work on the Community Impact team. We do work in family leadership, family engagement, and family literacy. I have been fortunate to be with NCFL for a little over 6 years now at this point, and I have gotten to work alongside folks in Kentucky and Indiana, and then in some national programs as well. I started out with family engagement and then worked with family literacy for a couple of years before coming in to work really closely alongside Kentucky folks as the associate director and now the director of this work. So I'm excited to be here with you all today and to just share some things that we see that are helping our programs across the country. So now we'll go into just a really brief overview of the National Center for Families Learning so that you can see who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. NCFL's mission is to eradicate poverty through education solutions for families. So we are working for and with families that are furthest from opportunity, whether or not that is because of socioeconomic needs or because of language access or for things like health equity and those kinds of things. We're always looking for ways that we can come alongside communities and support families with the things that we know that they need. And our vision is to create coordinated and aligned family learning systems across the country that are established in these communities, built with and for families, to increase education and economic outcomes to create more thriving communities. So we've had a national reach since 1989. We were founded and established in Louisville, Kentucky. And we have a national staff. So a lot of us live in the Kentucky, Indiana area, but then there are a lot of us that work across the country in different areas. And so we span from the East Coast to the West Coast, which is really quite lovely. To date, we have had programming, either legacy programming or current programming, in 150 plus communities across the country in 39 different states, and we've helped over 4.5 million families. So we are very excited about the work that we've been able to accomplish over the last 36 years. And right now, we are doing that through really digging deeply into communities that are interested in family learning systems. And so, a family learning system combines strategic co-designed partnerships with the three areas that we know help families thrive. So, family literacy, family engagement, and family leadership. Family literacy is our flagship program. It's what we started with back in 1989, and it's going to expand everything from birth all the way up to adulthood. With family literacy, it's multi-generational learning. And this is where we're going to support families and parenting adults in building their own literacy, technology, and workforce skills. But then we're also going to make sure that there's healthy development and literacy milestones being met for learning outcomes for their children. And so when parents are able to come alongside with their children and to not only learn themselves as adult learners, but also support their child's learning, we know that those can have lasting outcomes well into the future. And I will say at this point in the presentation, when we talk about anything, and you hear us use the word parent or parenting adult, we use those interchangeably. We know that families come in all different shapes and sizes, and that students and children can have different adults in their life who are filling that role. And so whether or not it's a biological parent that's acting as that parenting adult, or it is a older sibling, an aunt, an uncle, a community member, a teacher, foster families, any parenting adult that is working alongside a child to help them grow and achieve their own milestones is what we consider a parent at NCFL. When we get into family engagement, that is also going to encompass those age groups from birth all the way up to adulthood. But with family engagement, we look at a dual capacity building framework. We base a lot of our work off of Dr. Mapp from Harvard and talking through how you can not only engage families as partners and co-creators and problem solvers, but also build the capacity of local community organizations, school districts, and anybody else that would come in contact with that family to be able to work alongside them and see them as their child's first and forever teacher. And then when we get into family leadership, those opportunities are going to be focused just on the parenting adult of those children. And so with family leadership, those are any opportunities where we're able to build leadership and job skills and increase social capital among parenting adults, while again, also building that capacity of schools, communities, government agencies, and businesses to work alongside those families. And we know that when we are in communities that are intentionally having family literacy, engagement, and leadership opportunities embedded across their community, that this helps families be able to meet their own needs and their own milestones and gain their own economic mobility to be able to continue to grow and be better. And so this is just a really great example of why we're wanting to focus on network communities now. We knew that from 1989 all the way up until 2022 that we had all of these programs, but they were often one element, just family literacy or just family engagement, that were working very loosely. They were not networked, and they could be very siloed. So we might not know what Nebraska was doing and how it could help North Carolina, or what Colorado was doing that could help Kentucky. And so from 2023 on, we have been working to really form these family learning communities to become integrated and connected. And they do this through coaching through NCFL. We have a National Family Learning Community Network that those communities join once they join up with us. And what we're doing is expanding this network of different communities who are able to talk to each other, to see what other folks are doing, and really to be able to learn from each other to see what is happening. And so just this year alone, obviously, there's been lots of different conversations in terms of different types of funding folks might be able to do, different types of resources that people might need in terms of family literacy. We're seeing conversations around things like absenteeism and how to increase attendance. Those are all things that happen and that are talked about within these communities. And so we're kind of right in the second half of the 2025 piece where we are expanding into different communities, and we know it's just going to continue to grow. So now I want to get into what PACT time, parent and child together time, is within the realm of family literacy. And then we'll talk about some different PACT time resources that we have, and then help you see how you can apply these back into your own programs as well. So we get a lot of questions for folks that are new to family literacy, and I'm sure there are very many of you here on the webinar today that are very familiar with family literacy and might have your own legacy programs that you've been a part of for many, many years. But for those of you that might be newer to this term, the term family literacy services means services that are of sufficient intensity and duration in terms of hours to make sustainable changes in a family that integrate 4 components. And so we have a 4-component model that we follow, and it includes adult education, children's education, parent time, and PACT time. With adult education, when a family comes into a family literacy program, they're going to be focused on any adult goal, education goal that parenting adult might have. That can be from anything to GED acquisition, high school equivalency needs. It can be different types of certifications, workforce readiness skills, durable skills. And then it can also grow into things like college and wanting a specific type of career based on what is available within your own community. And so that will be the adult education portion of a family literacy program. On the other side of that is children's education. So children's education will encompass any time where a child is learning outside of their family unit. So that could be for your infants and toddlers and that early childhood realm. It could be like a local daycare or an early childhood program. It could be a preschool. It could be a program at the library that lasts for, half a semester, that kind of thing, where you're taking your little one and they're getting some extra learning in that way. But then it also means any type of K-12 or pre-K-12 type program where a child, again, is going into a classroom setting. They're learning from a teacher or a set of teachers and developing along their own education and educational and developmental milestone. And then within a family literacy program, we get into something called parent time. And parent time is a really interesting piece, and it's a really beautiful time for all of the parenting adults in that program to come together and to think through what their own goals might be as parents. So this is a time when they're not worried about their own adult education goals. They're not necessarily going to focus on their children's goals at this point. They just want to ask that question, what can I do to be a better parent? What do I want to learn to be different within my own family? And so within those family literacy groups, those parents come together. They might work with their family literacy coordinator to kind of take a survey and to just, as a whole, see what they're interested in. It could be topics such as nutrition, maybe how to go out and get ingredients and cook a healthy meal that your child is going to want to eat, and to do that differently. It could be wanting to find resources in the community because maybe your family needs access to maybe like some health resources, so where are some places that you can go, that kind of thing. I've also seen programs where all of the adults have come together at that time and said, we really aren't comfortable getting our driver's licenses yet, so we want to go out and we want to figure out, how do we go to the DMV, how do we get our permit, what does it take to get a driver's license? And so that group, for their parent time for a series of weeks, accomplish that together. And so that is anything, again, that's outside of adult education, but is going to help your family be stronger in some way. And then we get to PACT time, which in my experience is one of the most influential pieces of time that you can have together in a family literacy program, because it's bringing that parent and that child together to learn together and to strengthen their bond. And within PACT time, This is where parents can reinforce lessons that are learned in a school setting or in a children's education setting. So they might be working with their infants and toddlers alongside something like an ages and stages questionnaire and trying to reach a developmental milestone. Or maybe they're working with their elementary or middle school students around things like spelling words, different math concepts, that kind of thing, up into high school when you're really working alongside to see how you can support your child as they're navigating things like, what does life look like after high school? Are they wanting to go and do a technical career? Are they wanting to explore their college options? That kind of thing. But they're coming together and they're working on something that is intended to bring them closer together and to achieve that goal. And so there's a couple different types of PACT time that I'm going to get into here in just a second. But as you can see, family literacy is a great way to expand those PACT time opportunities and really help those families connect with their children to achieve some educational goals themselves. So, like I said, with PACT time, when we're just focusing on that, it's interactive literacy activities between parents and their children. And we define PACT time at NCFL as intergenerational programming where parents are engaging in joint learning activities with their child in an educational setting or a self-selected space. So we like to say PACT time can happen anytime, anywhere. So it can happen in the classroom, it could happen in a school setting, but it can also happen at home or in your community. And so you can see here in this photo, we have an example of PACT time at one of our FACE sites. And it looks like this parenting adult and her child, they're doing some different activities with some building blocks and shapes and then some different types of animals. And it looks like they have something that they're kind of reading together alongside. The purpose of PACT time for us is to support parents as their first and most influential teacher for their children. We also want to support those parents in building the knowledge of their child's needs, their interests, and their development. So it's doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, I'm going to, choose a PACT time activity that has to do specifically with this educational piece. It could be something that helps them with their development as well. Um, and then interest, especially when you're thinking about younger children, we want to follow their interests. So if they're interested in things like dinosaurs, like you saw on the page previously, you might want to have more activities that kind of keep their interest and go that way. We also want to facilitate meaningful interactions and strengthen that relationship between the parenting child and their adult. And then we want to develop a parent's self-efficacy for engaging with their children in activities that support age-appropriate development and learning. What this means is that when you think about, especially now, families that are engaged in a K-12 setting, some of them themselves might not have had the most positive experience in a classroom setting or in a school setting. PACT time offers a way to start to heal that discomfort or maybe that mental model that they might have seen and to say, like, I can be in control. I do know what's best for my child. Even if I didn't have the best experience before getting here, I can kind of change that now as we move ahead. So we really want to empower parents into seeing that they don't have to wait for their child to go to kindergarten to start learning. They don't have to wait for their child to be in a specific grade to learn a certain concept. You can kind of take back that power right now. Because if you're willing to sit and work with your child, that is enough to keep you going forward. So we know that there are two types of PACT time. They're facilitated PACT time and unfacilitated PACT time. Facilitated PACT time is just like it sounds like. It's going to take place in a group setting or in that educational space where a facilitator is present. And then when you have unfacilitated PACT time, that's anything that happens outside of that space. So it could take place at home or in a self-selected space where the facilitator is not present. So that could be a family trip to the library. That could be when you're out about in your community. It could be when you're at a local park and doing some things with your younger children too. And so when we break it down and think about facilitated PACT time, that itself has two different areas that it can be. You can either have a facilitator constructed PACT time opportunity, or you can have a co-constructed PACT time opportunity. So I like to give examples. Some examples of some facilitated PACT time that is facilitator constructed is here on the screen. It's in yellow. This could be something like step-by-step instructions where you go online and you're researching a cultural event and creating a presentation. The facilitator is going to walk the families through that in their PACT Time opportunity. They'll give them step-by-step instructions. Everybody will have what they need and they'll know what they're trying to accomplish together. That co-constructed piece could become a result of one week you try that facilitator constructed one, and then you get some feedback from your families. And this is where the children and the parents instead say, this time we really want to veer off of that. And we want to discuss something of interest to us. And we're going to look at that together and research it online. So they've kind of come back to the facilitator and said, that was great what you did last week. And now we want to take it a step further and kind of co-design it together as a group. And so neither one is right or wrong. Your program will benefit from having just a really nice blend of both. But that's just an example of facilitated with the facilitated constructed and then the co-constructed piece. When we get into unfacilitated PACT time, you can have an opportunity where the facilitator is not there, but they have offered you kind of this constructed PACT time packet or set of instructions or something that you're taking away and you're doing without the facilitator present. And then you can also have co-constructed unfacilitated PACT time. So I've got some examples of that here on the screen. If you look at the left at the reddish color, some facilitator constructed PACT time would be everybody is there together and the facilitator says, you're going to go on a walk today. I want you to collect leaves, talk about the different colors that you're seeing. And then when you come back in, everything will be set out. You can use the leaves for an art project. You can work on it together. Everything is just provided, but the facilitator is not a part of this process. They've just set it up and then they've set the families free to do it at their own pace and at their own interests. With co-constructed PACT time, that again could be where the adults and the children have really enjoyed that facilitated piece. And now they're saying, well, this time we're just going to go outside and we're going to have our own conversation about nature. And we're going to work on these things. And this is what we'd like to do together as a family. Again, within your program, you don't have to have one or the other. It would be really beneficial to have just a blend of both. And then when you're thinking about the two different types of PACT time, it's important for you to both allow the freedom and the opportunity for families to engage in the way that they would like to, kind of explore on their own, just have their own opportunities without you dictating every step. But then it's also important sometimes if it's a new concept or if it's a particularly challenging concept for your group, to scaffold them and to set them up with materials and prompts and instructions so that they can be successful. I want to pause here because I know facilitated versus unfacilitated can be just one that we might have some questions for. So if you have any questions, please feel free, let me know. I'm checking the chat.
We don't have any questions yet,
Perfect.
Dr. Miller.
So when you're thinking about planning a PACT time opportunity, there are 5 steps that we recommend into planning this PACT time. And they build on top of each other. So you'll start at the top when you see here where it says facilitator planning. And as they go through and you get to the end of the first cycle, it will inform your second cycle and so on. So the first step with PACT time that you want to do is you want to have some planning time where you're thinking through the age range of families that you're serving, as well as what their different needs might be. And so for some of you, you might have really like narrow specific age ranges that you're able to engage with. For others, you might have like a wider spread. But knowing your families, knowing their needs and those age ranges is really important, and thinking through what you might like to do or encourage for that week. And then when you go into the second step, that is the preparation and then the modeling with families. So even if you're going back and you're doing unfacilitated PACT time, but it's facilitator led at first, you still will need to do a little bit of modeling, give them some instructions, and then let them take that home or take that out into the community. So making sure that you've prepared, you've thought through everything, you have all the materials ready to go is a really important second step. Then the third step really just is do the PACT time experience. So if you're physically with your families and you're having a PACT time opportunity, within a community center or a school setting or at a local library. That's just where everyone's going to do PACT time together. So maybe they're in with you doing something step by step that's facilitated, or they've gone out and about and they're exploring the library and doing something on their own. But either way, everybody within that opportunity, they're doing their PACT time. You can walk around and scaffold folks if you need to. You can encourage them if you'd like to. That all happens right there in that moment. And then everybody comes back and they go into step 4, which is a debrief. And this is really important for you to plan future sessions with your families. It's really important for you to see kind of what skills are being mastered and what other things you might be able to kind of plan for in the future. So at that debrief, that's when you might ask the family those questions like, did you like that? How did it feel? What was challenging for you? If you could redo it at home, what might it look like? What kind of questions might you have for me? And you can come up with just a series of questions based on that, and then just take the feedback that your families are able to give you. Then after the debrief and your PACT time is over, you want to send your families out and encourage them to do PACT time anywhere at home on their own. And so that's where you might have either a reminder if you're able to, or if you're a paper person and want to send some home some things to think about between now and the next time you have a PACT session together. That's when you want to encourage them to do things between now and then. So some questions that they might ask, some ideas that they might make. This is also a really good time to encourage family goal setting. If you would like your families to play at home for a certain number of times over the next week, or if you'd like them to try something out between now and the next time and bring back some learning, that's when you're really going to encourage that during that ongoing practice. And then that takes you right back to the facilitator planning portion where you're thinking through what was beneficial, what went well, what did they say they needed? Let's plan another activity together. And that cycle is what will help you throughout all of the portions of the PACT time planning.
And Allison, we did have a question in the chat from Laura Smart. What's the
Sure.
typical or ideal group size for packed time?
That is the $1 million question. I always say it is going to depend on a couple of different things. It'll depend on your program size and your capacity, but also the individual needs of the family. So we have some programs that we do at NCFL that are for infants and toddlers. You don't want 15 infants and toddlers in any type of a closed setting. It's just a lot. But 12 to 15 like middle and high schoolers in a big enough space with their families might be doable. So I always recommend just kind of looking at what your program goals are, what the needs are of your specific families. If you have any language needs, sometimes we have interpretation, that kind of thing going on. But I will say, like, if I had to average it out, we see a lot of groups that are anywhere from that, like, 8 to 15 size, just depending on the age group range, where you can get a lot done. But for you as the facilitator too, you want to think through how much time you have and if you're trying to make individual touch points with those families at that time. So I'm going to take you through just a couple of NCFL PACT time resources that we use. And then I've got 2 resources that are accessible on the web that I'll share some links to for you to explore. And we'll take some time for that. And we're right at the half-hour mark, which was my goal. So that is great for us. So when we think about programming across ages at NCFL, we really break it up into these 3 age bands. We've got your birth to 5, where we're going to really be heading into that developmental milestone area. We're going to monitor those and maybe set some goals around what milestones we want to be working towards. We're really going to engage in talk and play at that point, and then attending community events. And so, like I said, that's your infant toddlers, that's also your preschools, and even maybe your kindergartners at that point. When we get into the elementary range, those are where we really want families to start to think through how to communicate with school staff, how can we support at-home learning, encouraging the attendance of family nights, focusing on curriculum, and then volunteering. And so those are all some examples of different opportunities that you could build some PACT time activities in, or you can encourage parents to attend and then come back and have a PACT time like debrief about. And then when you go into secondary, That is really going to be that middle high school spot. So that is where we're going to look at things like academic socialization, communicating the importance about academics, and then aspirations for the student and their plans for the future. And so we have three programs I'm going to take you through today. One that does that birth to three, or excuse me, that birth to five piece, with the birth to five. Then one that does the elementary piece, and then one that does the secondary piece. And that would all fall in realm with they have some PACT time aspects baked into them. Some of them have parent time, but then neither one of them obviously have children's education or adult education built into them because that is not our goal at NCFL. We provide these two things very heavily. So Play with Purpose is an example of PACT time and parent time. It is a 9-week program that we've created to enhance the abilities and the capacity of a playgroup facilitator to share evidence-based information with families through a playgroup model. So they come together for a total of 9 weeks. They have a playgroup hour. And then the family caregivers at that point, they're getting those strategies around their children's development and learning how to take the ages and stages questionnaire, which is a really great tool to see how a child is developing across their own developmental milestone journey, not necessarily compared to other children. And then what it also does when folks are coming together at this time is increasing their opportunities to connect with adults and children that are in a similar age range. So they're able to learn and socialize with each other. And then overall, when you have all of these pieces, when you have a really great facilitator, when you have parents that are learning some great things in parent time, and then you have the PACT time piece where everybody is learning together and practicing those skills, we know that that's going to increase early language development, which leads to literacy skills later on in life, and helps them get ready to transition to kindergarten. And then with our Play with Purpose, like I said, it is broken up into, we have an infant toddler portion, and then we have a preschool portion. And so, like I said, when you're thinking about a PACT time opportunity, we're not going to have 15 babies and toddlers in one room. We typically have 8 to 10 at that age. And the same thing for preschoolers. When we're doing this PACT time together, it's about 8 to 10 preschoolers with their parenting adult in this space. So there's a couple of things that we think through when we're offering this PACT time opportunity. We want to make sure that we're providing really great books and toys that are developmentally appropriate and that relate back to early literacy strategies that we want to reinforce. Family Workshops to Go is an example of PACT time that we offer for elementary families. It's 6 pre-planned workshops that families come into. It has parent time, it has PACT time into it. And with that, it enhances the facilitator's ability to offer PACT time, but it's also targeting those families that have children between 3 and 8 that need hands-on literacy learning. And then there's some intergenerational learning around topics like sparking conversations, making the most of reading, and then building reading comprehension. And again, we recommend that would be anywhere from like 8 to 15 families in this situation where the adults are going to practice a strategy and then their children come into the room with them and then they all do the activity together. And so both Play with Purpose and Family Workshops to Go would be a great example of some facilitated PACT time and facilitator created PACT time. As our children get older, we have Family Service Learning and Science, which is a secondary solution that we have. Here, it is meant for people with children between middle and high school ages, and it's a 12-week program that people attend. And this is co-designed with families to use family engagement strategies to investigate a solution for some community science challenges. And the curriculum engages learners in some different immersive learning experiences, and it deepens their their digital literacy skills. And they actually use the MetaQuest headset that you can see right here in this. But we have them take as a family for their PACT time. They go through these 6 different steps of inquiry to be able to plan something together as a family. So this is more of, it starts out as facilitated PACT time that is facilitated by like it is made by the facilitator, but by the end there is some co-designing and some co-learning together where the families are working with their children to identify the topic, to explore that more, and to take that into their own control. And so with that, they'll investigate a topic. They're going to plan and prepare on how they want to research it. They'll decide how to take some action around it. Then they'll reflect together. And then they get to kind of celebrate and share that with they have during the 12th week, they do kind of a showcase of everything that they've learned with each other. And then they talk about how to make it sustainable. So how do they keep wanting to come back to PACT Time together as a family and keep learning these digital literacy skills, or maybe learning a little bit more about their science topic. So it's a really neat way when you're thinking about those middle and high schoolers to just broaden their horizons and to have a family member learning alongside them.
We did have a couple of questions if you're ready to take them,
I
Dr.
do.
Miller.
Yeah, I do
Have,
actually.
have a question from Kelly, and she said, are there free resources for us to use with family workshops to go?
Family Workshops to Go is not one of our free offerings at this time. We did have some opportunities throughout Kentucky, like as an example, and that always changes. So I would definitely be happy to take down your information and see what we could find. I do have two resources I'm about to share with you that are free for you all to explore here in just like literally 30 seconds. So hopefully, Kelly, that'll help you just see some different ways that you can explore that.
We have another question from Anonymous who asks, if you have a larger interest, would you divvy up your parent groups into language level, assuming you have access to this data?
I would. I would consider, I think you couldn't go wrong with either way. Sometimes there is some benefits to just splitting the group down the middle with just like a broad range of needs. So that way they can kind of learn from each other and see from each other. But if you've got some really big literacy needs and levels within your adults and you want to do it that way to make sure everybody's individual needs are, you could totally do it that way. So it's one of those, it's always nice to be with a lot of different people and not feel like you're in one group versus another. But if you're looking at meeting a specific need, I think that can be super helpful as well. So if you know that, maybe try a couple sessions where you like work with them independently. And then maybe see if you could blend your groups a little bit and still have smaller groups, but maybe like an A and a B group. Does that make any sense?
And we have another question. Thank you
Sure.
for that answer. We do have another question from Heather May, who asks, can you point to any smaller independent programs or startup models that don't rely on schools and social services as the points of contact? In Little Bismarck, North Dakota, a few of us see the value of a literacy program for local refugee families, but we can't seem to get anything started. Potential partner organizations are at capacity with other things.
That is a great question. And it sounds like you're already thinking through a lot of the things that I would recommend. So I have found like libraries to be one of the best birthplaces for this kind of work. And they can often maybe help you think through who community partnerships are. When we think back to the beginning of our family learning community work that I was talking about at the very beginning, that is quite literally what a lot of the family learning communities that I'm working with, like it's everybody else that's also at capacity coming together and saying, hey, we know we have some really big things that we'd like to accomplish as a community, and we know that time and funding can sometimes be on the smaller size. How do we stop duplicating our efforts and start like streamlining things and streamlining services? So I would first start with libraries. I also know that if you're working with refugees, I can put this in the chat, or Steve, you're welcome to maybe type it for me. But there is another one of our national partners. It's called Unite for Literacy. They have an online library of books for early learners, early like literacy learners to learn English in their own like language. So there's lots of different languages represented. They're leveled readers, so they're very like easy to navigate and to learn. And it's all free for you to explore. And the person that runs that, Mike McGuffey, is just a wonderful person to think through like different ways to get resources into families' hands and that type of thing. If you have funding, he can get them like print and bound for you as well because they have an in-house printing press. But that would be another place that I would start with just for resources. But if you're interested, let's maybe connect like after this and see if we can brainstorm some ideas together about how we might be able to get like your particular program off the ground.
Yeah, and thank you for those answers. Those are all the questions for now.
Thank you for adding Unite for Literacy. So I have two online resources I'm going to show you here today. I'll make sure that we get both of them here in the chat. The first is the Play Toolkit. It is Birth to Five. And then the second one is elementary. Unfortunately, we don't have any secondary things that are like live right now to share, but you're welcome to explore our website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of this. And Steve, can you tell me, are you able to see when I switch over to Play Toolkit?
Yes, absolutely. Can see
Okay,
it perfectly.
perfect. I'm going to give you this in the chat so that you can put it there for folks to explore. All right, so the Play Toolkit I really love. It was developed for our FACE programming, and it is now like available for everybody. It explores different ways that parents can support their child's play as a part of everyday routines. So we've got it broken up into 6 different like learning sessions that can then turn into PACT Time opportunities for you. So we talk about how you can do PACT Time at home. We talk about how you can make a visual schedule. We help families understand the play cycle and what that looks like. And then we help them think through how to find a comfy place to read at home for like that shared reading piece. We have them go through art together and how to do like art opportunities. And then we have them think through open-ended materials because we know that it is really important in this birth to five realm not to have that one toy that does just one job and is like a talking robot or anything like that. It's really important to have open-ended materials that children can use in different ways and at different times that have a lot of different meanings. And so you can watch a little video about this if you want to, and the why. But then if you scroll down right here at the bottom, we've got this 6 different lessons linked there. So if we go here to the visual schedule is one of my favorite. There's a handout that you can share with your families. And so it's what are we learning? We ask parents like kind of this guiding questions. Did you know? And then we have them think through together time. And then we walk them through how they might create a visual schedule together. We give them a couple hints on what they can do to be successful. And then we have that reflection piece. So if you think back to the PACT Time cycle that I shared a few slides ago, this could be a part of your planning tool where you're like, okay, my families have said that a lot of them struggle with transitions with little ones. A visual schedule could be something that would be helpful for the whole group. I'm going to have a PACT Time day where this is what I'm going to plan. So I'm going to plan this visual schedule day, going to get all my materials ready, get everything together for the families, and then you'll literally do this activity together with them. You'll have them practice it and then maybe send them off for after they debrief and tell you what they thought about it. Send them off for some ideas of, okay, I want you to, try and use this 2 of the next 7 days, or maybe really see if this helps your bedtime routine get any better and come back next week ready to discuss. And so, yeah, that is just one example. Let me back us up out of here. Oh, it's going to do this. And then again, if you look at this open-ended material ones, it's very similar. We have a handout that you can show your families. And then I also forgot to say that we have these translated into Spanish as well. And then my internet just kind of gave out. Hold on. And so, yeah, you'll open up that handout and then you can just see the different ways to use open-ended materials. Does anybody have any questions about the Play Toolkit? All right. And then we have our family engagement activities. Let me get you this one.
Just put that in the chat.
Yes, I will get that right here. Our family engagement activities are meant to be very similar. So you could use these within the realm of planning for your PACT as well. This is going to be more for your elementary students. So obviously a little bit less than your infant toddlers, but this would be a really nice sweet spot for pre-K all the way up to second or third grade and beyond. And you can always scaffold it to meet the different needs to make this just a little smaller. So the first one that we have on here is animal walks. It's the same thing. We'll give you an overview of why it's important. And then we'll give you a couple of ideas of ways that you can do the activity. So here you can decide to do a kangaroo jump. You could do some octopus wiggles. You could do some frog jumps. And we have you think through, invite your child to think of other animals that you can do together. And so this could be when you're thinking about facilitated versus unfacilitated pack time. If we're over in that unfacilitated pack time piece, this could be something that you send home in between pack time sessions and say, here's the instructions. We'll read through them really quickly and see if anybody has any questions, but you can take these out and you can do these the next time that you're out and about in the community or at a playground. You can do these at your own home. But this is a time for you to have some unfacilitated pack time away from here. But I've kind of taken the guesswork out of it and I've given you a framework to do it at home. And so we have some animal walking. We've got body songs. So that's just another way to think through different ways to move their body and to sing. We've got some box play. And so this is great, especially that time of year. I feel like every organization, it's like Christmas time, we're getting a million different boxes from different materials. So if you find yourself with, 10, 12 new Amazon boxes and you want to have a box play week, you could, again, run through the instructions while you're together with your families and then send this home for some unfacilitated pack time. We just have some different things that they can think through. With this, what we're finding, especially post-COVID, this crossing the midline piece is becoming more and more important for families. Children are needing to develop like those gross and those fine motor skills. So this is kind of the why behind that. So you can send that home and just explain to families, this is why it's so important to start using these larger muscle body groups to get ready for things in a classroom setting. We've got some fun dough. So this would be one, and we really tried to make these as low cost or no cost as possible. This might be one where you might have to send home some supplies or maybe make it in your pack time experience together and then send it home. It just uses flour, salt, a little bit of oil, some cold water, and then food coloring if you want to, and then maybe like a plastic bag to take it home in. So not crazy expensive, but still a cost for you. And then we have one, hills and ramps. This is a really great one to think about cause and effect and just the different like science STEM applications. We have the indoor toss, again, just another way to get those muscle groups moving. Laundry time we put in, and I think as a parent of a 9-year-old, I think it's really important to know that children can start doing things like sorting and helping you do different chores around the house from a pretty decent early age. And it can be fun. You can make it playful. You can make it a time when you get to learn together. You can talk through why it's important to do the chore together. You can work on sorting. You can have them help you, count or time or those kinds of things. So we give you just a couple of different things that you can do at home there. We've got a paper airplane race. Again, you might need a couple pieces of paper. Shadow play. I feel like everybody now with a cell phone is able to at least put the camera flash on and do like a little bit of a flashlight so you can do some shadow play. We have silly stories, which is really great for families that are practicing different types of like oral retelling or language development at home. And yeah, so that is like a 12-part pack time offering that you could pick up and take here today if you have that age range. Without too much planning. And then depending on how you do your own pack time cycles, this could be more than 12 weeks. It could be 24 or even close to a year's worth of activities. If you do some follow-ups with them, you could model 1 week and then send it home the next, or you could send it home 1 week and then have them come up with some activities to do the next based on what they learned the week before. I'm going to pause here and see if anybody's got any questions. Excuse
There
me.
are currently no
Okay,
questions in the Q&A or the chat, but I'll ask one if I
sure.
can.
Please
And
do.
that would be let's say someone here is interested in rebooting maybe a family literacy program
Hmm.
that they had at one time and it's kind of lapsed, or maybe
Yeah,
someone is interested, they've caught the bug today and they're
yeah,
really interested in getting a family literacy program off the ground. What would you recommend to someone who's in either of
yeah.
those situations?
I would reach out to me. I'll have my contact information here at the end, and I'm sure it's shared with this. We've got some different tiered models for family literacy, so we can talk about things that we could do to help you. If you have some funding available, we could also help you think through what like local funding sources you might have available to you. But we really do try to make it as accessible as possible. So if that's something that you're interested in, please like connect with us. We want to share this and spread this.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And if you would
Yeah.
please put your email in the
Yep.
chat
I'll do
so
it right
everyone
here.
would have access to that, that would be great. Any other questions for Dr. Miller?
This is my contact information. We're just a little bit early. And like I said, we are always trying to think about how to expand offerings, especially for that secondary realm. It seems to get trickier and trickier at times, but we know that there are programs that do that really well. So if you ever have any ideas or you want to talk to us about something, we're always willing to hear it. And I hope that these two resources here today were helpful for you.
We'll have one more question. I know you've worked with
Yeah.
family literacy for some time.
Mhm.
What would you say is the biggest or most important thing to those who are involved with family literacy? If you, from all your years of experience, had to say one thing or several things about family literacy, what would you tell people?
Family literacy is, from the perspective that I've had and the experiences I've had, it really is what changes the trajectory of a family. So when you can bring all of the partners together, the adult education, your local school corporation, if that's who you're partnering with, or whoever's providing that children's education, and just have this conversation about we want to get 10, 15, 20 families over the next year involved and really coming together to see that they are part of a group, and that they can set and achieve these goals together, that to me is when you start to see the magic because parents start to see I can be my child's best teacher. They start to see I can also accomplish things for myself and get a better job or learn a new skill, get something that helps our family. And when like those things start happening, life gets a little bit easier in some ways. So you can start to focus on why attendance is important, why, you want to continue those things at home. So I would say getting your key players in place, whoever your adult education supporter is, whoever your children's education supporter is, and then anybody that can provide those spaces for PACT time opportunities, like that's where the magic happens when they see that it really is this like village that comes together to achieve great things.
It's wonderful, and I don't see any other questions either in the Q&A or in the chat. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Miller, so much for giving your time. And I hope you're seeing all these wonderful comments in the
I
chat
am. I
there.
actually did just open that to see if there is because I it popped up. You all are gonna make me cry. Thank you so much. I'm very glad that this was helpful for to you all. It is something that we do every day, so we think it's pretty special. So we're very excited when others think it's really important as well.
Yes, so certainly getting a lot of great comments for this presentation. And thank you again so much, Dr. Miller, for giving of your time and sharing your expertise with the co-ed community today. And we want to thank everyone who has attended today's webinar. Once again, 24 hours at the end of the webinar, you will
Mhm.
receive a certificate, and there will be information where you'll be able to find the video for this as well as the PowerPoint. So thank you again. Look forward to seeing you on. We have one more webinar next week. Look forward to seeing you on that one or on future webinars. And thank you so much and wish everyone happy holidays.
Thank you all. Happy holidays.